Okay, so I made a post a while ago about the whole idea of us doing Armageddon 2001. The problem was that I didn't know that some of the books had not been turned into a digital form yet to allow me to actually cover those books on the channel. And so I had to find something else to replace Armageddon 2001. Now, technically, I had two different ideas. We had Superman, the Triangle Effect, and also Trinity. Now, here's the thing. We're going to do both actually, but I'm going to save the whole triangle effect for a different video. But in this video, we're going to focus more on the Trinity event because it's all about the big three: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. They are the big three in DC Comics and sometimes all comics across the world. Now, when it comes to Trinity, it was very similar to the 52 series and also the Countdown series. And let me explain why. Because in those two books right there, they were coming out weekly for one single year apiece. But also, they gave us 52 issues in each of those series, but focusing on lesser well-known heroes. And so for DC, they took that concept and said, let's go ahead, do the same thing over here, but let's try to focus on the more well-known heroes like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So when it came to Trinity, it was also a weekly series for one single year, 52 books, but again, focusing on the well-known heroes. But on top of that, it was just one big storyline. From the first issue all the way up to the very last issue. And so I kind of felt like it would be a good idea for us to go ahead and cover the entire thing, starting off with the first 3 chapters and move our way up to the very end. And so as we get into the first chapter of today's storyline, we really do pick up out in space. And here's the reason why, because we do pick up with some random person trying to break free from some kind of prison. This person is telling us to let them out, but we have no idea who this person is. But it does seem like he's trying to rip a hole in reality as a way to break free to come into this reality. But unfortunately, he's not really able to break free that easily. But now we're able to jump over to the big three. Now, when we do, it's the big three being able to meet up to have lunch or possibly brunch, who knows. Either way, they all came together to say like, hey, we all had the same dream, somebody trying to break free. The only difference is that in each of their dreams, the setting was different. So for example, for Superman, he saw that person out in space trying to break free. For Batman, it was someone in the shadows, some kind of criminal. But for Diana, it was some kind of ancient god trying to break free. But the thing is, it's all kind of similar. The whole idea of somebody trying to break free. What does it truly mean? Now, for Clark, he does hear that the Justice League is currently fighting against one of Batman's super villains. And so you do have our 3 leave to go help out with that situation. And really, it's just the League fighting against Clayface, which honestly is not a huge threat. And you do have those heroes being able to handle Clayface without the help of the big three. But now for Bruce Wayne, he has another question, and that involves Wally West. Because he wants to know if Wally West had also been having the same dreams as Bruce, Diana, and also Clark. But the thing is, for Wally, he has been having normal dreams, nothing at all similar to the big three. And so that tells our heroes there's some kind of connection right now with all 3 of them that involves somebody trying to break free, something very powerful and dangerous. But the question is right now, who is that person who's trying to break free? And so that kind of leads into the whole idea of our heroes telling each other to watch their backs because they have no idea what could be possibly coming after them down the road. And so you do have our heroes go their separate ways back to their own towns. Now, you do have our heroes out there trying to make sure that their city is protected. But the problem is that while out there on patrol, you didn't have our heroes all be attacked at the same exact time. But also they heard a voice right before they were attacked by unknown forces. And so again, for our heroes, they're kind of left to wonder what in the world is coming after them. Now, when it came to this series, every single issue had two separate storylines. Now, one of those stories was always going to be about the Trinity, the big three, but other stories would always be used as a way to focus on different characters who could play a major role in the overall story of this series. So, for example, when it comes to the second storyline in the first issue, it's really more about two different characters. And that would be Morgan Le Fay and also Enigma. Now, Enigma is a very interesting but cool character that we have not talked about yet, but we are now. You see, when it comes to Enigma, he comes from the antimatter universe. Now, that was originally the first universe for the crime syndicate. So, of course, the roles, they were kind of switched around. Where Batman is not your usual hero, he is a villain, better known as Owlman. And so when it came to Riddler, in that reality, he was a good guy. He was known as Enigma, being a hero. But after a while, unfortunately, he fell to the role as a villain. And the only reason why? Because the crime syndicate had killed off his family. And so for Enigma, his main goal is to find a way to reshape his world to be able to bring back his family to life. That is his main goal right there. So he was able to come into the main DC universe. And of course, he met up with Morgan Le Fay. Now, we also kind of find out that these two characters had also had the same dream as well as Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. But the question is right now, what is that dream all about? Now, you do have Enigma being able to show Morgan Le Fay what he had also seen as well, these ripples in the universe that's surrounding three particular characters. And of course, it is the big three: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But the question is right now, why are those three characters so important in the universe? Now, at the same time, for Morgan Le Fay, she's kind of wondering what kind of power is trying to contact them, and if she's able to take that power for her own personal needs. But you also have Enigma asking Morgan Le Fay, like, does your powers, your magical abilities, do they sense anything happening out there in the universe? And so for Morgan Le Fay, she said yes, in one particular area, in some kind of apartment in Los Angeles. And so you had the story shift its focus over to a character known as Margarita, and I really hope I pronounce her name correctly, but we do see her using tarot cards as a way to kind of see into the future. Now, the three cards she does pull out is the Devil, Justice, and Strength. But then out of nowhere, you have all three cards begin to change, where the Devil is now Batman, Strength is now Wonder Woman, and Justice is now Superman. But what does that mean? And so just like that, we now know that she'll be a very important character in the later chapters of this series. But you also have Morgan Le Fay try to look into the future. And when she does, she sees this dark future where apparently things are popping off across Gotham. But Gotham right now has new protectors, Ragman, and some kind of sidekick that he had picked up. It's no longer Batman and Robin. But the question is right now, what in the world led into this supposed future that could possibly happen? But then she sees another future where you have these two creatures, Konvikt and also Gorak, going into a cave with one another. But when they do, they are then confronted by Morgan Le Fay and also Enigma. So we're kind of left to wonder, when will this meeting actually happen? And what could happen with these three characters working together? But then she was given another vision, but this vision's now showing her a mountain that was carved to have the likeness of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. We have a bunch of people kind of standing there and praising the big three like they're some kind of gods. And so for Morgan Le Fay and Enigma, they kind of realize that they need to make their own Trinity. But to do that, they need a third person. And so then she gets another vision to kind of reveal who should be that third person on their roster. And that would be Despero. So for those two characters, they kind of believe in the idea that sooner or later, they're going to be able to get that power to allow them to take over the world. Except when they leave her castle, another vision is shown. And the thing is, she misses this one, where that dream was trying to show them that some powerful creature is on its way. And that powerful creature might have the ability to destroy the entire Earth in one single blow. Now, the first story in the second issue is really picking up where the last storyline left off, focusing on our heroes. Because remember, our heroes were now being attacked in different types of ways in each of their own cities. So, for example, for Superman, he's right now trying his best to protect Metropolis because out of nowhere, he had a sun appear in the middle of his city. But with that sun, you have a bunch of random planets as well arriving in the city. And so now these planets are growing in size and beginning the progress of destroying Metropolis. And so for Clark, he realized what he has to do. He has to push the sun out into space. And with him doing that, the planets should also follow the sun out into space before they grow in size and the entire world, well, explodes. Now, in Gotham, for Batman, it does seem like he had fallen into a different reality when it comes to Gotham, because he's right now seeing this different version of Gotham. And matter of fact, he is quickly surrounded by the authority of this reality of Gotham. Now, they do tell him like, hey, go ahead and surrender. But you have Batman say no. When he does, this reality around him, it shatters like glass. And of course, it brings back the original version of Gotham, the one Batman knows very well. Now, for Wonder Woman, her challenge is to fight against some robots, where honestly, she does struggle a tad bit in this battle, but you do have her being able to win very easily. Now, in the middle of the battle, you do have Clark arrive, and you do have Clark offer to help her out, but she says no, because she is an Amazon. She must go ahead and take this challenge on by herself, because at first, it was just her, and so it has to be her to be the one to finish this challenge with no help at all. And so you do have her being able to take down the robots by the end of this section. Now, when it came to our heroes, when they were facing all those different challenges, they were being watched by Morgan Le Fay and also Enigma. Now, for Morgan Le Fay, she's very impressed by Superman and Wonder Woman, but not really Batman. And the reason why, because for Batman, all he had to do is realize that reality was just shifting around him and trying to give him a fake version of his city. It was a mental game. And so for Batman, mental games are easy to overcome. And so for her, it does not really show how Batman is really important when it comes to the dreams that she and Enigma have been having. But now you have our heroes being able to regroup in the Batcave. Now, while you have our heroes trying to debrief with one another, you didn't have them get a call from John Stewart Green Lantern. And the reason why, because he's currently being attacked by the same two creatures that we had saw in one of the visions that Morgan Le Fay had earlier. And so right now, it's John Stewart just struggling to fight against these two creatures. Now, the second storyline of this issue is really more just focusing on Konvikt and also Garak, the two creatures who just arrived on Earth. And so the second storyline really shows John Stewart realizing that there's some kind of space pod heading towards Earth. And of course, by the time he's able to catch up to it, it's the two creatures we just saw a moment ago. Now, for Garak, he realized that Earth is not as advanced as other planets across the universe, but also their different weapons cannot do harm to his partner Konvikt. Now, with all that being said, you didn't have the two characters kind of go on a rampage. Really more Konvikt because he's the big buff guy, while you have Garak just hanging out on the shoulder of Konvikt. But you do have John Stewart being able to get involved in the battle. But unfortunately for John, he's not really able to go toe-to-toe with this guy by himself. And so by the end of this storyline, it's really more of John Stewart being defeated by Konvikt and Garak, which of course means it's time to bring in the big guns. And so as we get into the final chapter for today's video, we're now technically picking up with the Justice League stepping in where John Stewart had left off at. And the thing is, even though you have the entire league here trying their best to fight against Konvikt, it kind of shows here that they're not really able to go toe-to-toe with him at all like John Stewart couldn't do earlier. And so for our heroes, they're just barely hanging on, and they're kind of hoping on the idea the big guns will appear sooner or later to help out with this situation. And the thing is, the big guns do arrive just in time to take over and to hopefully take down Konvikt by themselves. Now, here's the thing. When the big three does arrive, you have the other heroes of the league begin to feel relieved about the idea of the big three being there. It's kind of like, yeah, the big three is there. They should be able to take down Konvikt by themselves. The day is saved. Now, really, you also have Morgan Lefay and also Enigma watching the scene of the battle as well. They kind of realize that the other heroes feel relieved about the idea of the big three being there. It's kind of like some kind of aura around them saying like, don't worry, the day is saved, back away, we got this right now. And you would think like, okay, cool. With Superman being there, Konvikt's going down in a matter of seconds. No, that does not happen at all. Matter of fact, you have Konvikt being able to punch Clark right in the face one time. And when he does that, he sends Clark flying the other direction. And Clark is completely knocked out. And so for our heroes, they're kind of left to wonder like, hey, are you good, Superman? Like, are you good? We need your help right now because Konvikt is here and he might kill us if you weren't able to take him down. But now we are able to jump into the second storyline in the third issue, where now we pick up with Margarita, the young lady we saw earlier in the first issue who's from Los Angeles, who had the tarot cards that kind of showed her a future with Superman, Batman, and also Wonder Woman. Now, that being said, she's right now trying to use the cards on herself, and the cards are trying to tell her that down the road, she's going to be joining a team. But when she does, she'll become the leader of that team as well. Now for her, she can't believe that. But at the same time, she also believed that she had some kind of connection to the universe with the cards earlier. But now she kind of feels like that connection is no longer around. We also learned that she's well known in her neighborhood. And the reason why, because, okay, she does see a Daily Planet article about Game being able to pull off a heist. And that right there is going to be very important for the end of this video. But when it comes to Margarita, as she begins to walk around the area, you have different people being able to say, thank you for helping me out, because she did use her cards to kind of help them, kind of guide them to figure out what their next moves are going to be in their lives. Now, with all that being said, when it comes to Margarita, sometimes she is able to set up shop in different areas across the city to allow her to be able to make more money by using her cards, but also to help people out as well. But unfortunately, over time, she had helped out a lot of different people, including different members of a certain gang in the area known as MVG. Now remember, she saw a newspaper where apparently a bank heist was pulled off by a certain gang, and that was them. They had used her reading to kind of figure out what to do when it came to that bank heist. And so because they were able to pull it off, they're now back at her once again saying, hey, listen, we need your help with another heist, a bigger one. Now, of course, for Margarita, she says no, and she begins to walk away. But the leader of the group, Frito, he hates the idea of being told no. And so you have him trying to chase her down, which he was able to do with a few members of the gang. And matter of fact, they chased her down into an alleyway. But while they were chasing her down, somebody close to her, known as Jose, saw what was happening and decided to help. But the problem is that Before he had arrived, a group of creatures had arrived as well to help out Margarita, and they said, she is not for you. She's for the three who are to rise. And then just like that, you have those creatures who we cannot see at the moment go out of their way to kill off every single member of that gang who was chasing down Margarita earlier. And so by the time Jose arrives, all he sees right now is a bunch of dead bodies surrounding Margarita. Now, she also did not see what went down earlier. And so for Jose, he's kind of wondering like, hey, what in the world happened here? But for Margarita, she has no answer because she did not see anything either. And really, the story kind of ends on the note where you have Margarita kind of wondering like what else could happen in her life. And so you then have Margarita go out of her way to pick up another card to do another reading. But then you have the book kind of end on that note right there. And honestly, this is a good stopping point for our coverage over this series. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see you on the next comic book video.